Let's go to the presidency. President John Dramani Mahama has denied employing over 100 presidential staffers as claimed by Member of Parliament for Damango, Samuel Abdullahi Jinapor. You recall, Samuel Jinapor, during the debate on President Mahama's address on the State of the Nation, claimed the president has deceived Ghanaians, reducing the size of government mantra, and padded the presidency with presidential staffers. Listen.
27th of February 2025, the President came to this House to fulfill his constitutional obligation of giving the message of the State of the Nation. But Mr. Speaker, I believe that this House almost unanimously have now agreed that that statement was indeed a message of lamentation. And I think all of us are agreeable on that. And on and on. But Mr. Speaker, let me address one very important matter, which is the question of the size of government. And indeed, the President, when he addressed this House, made the claim that he had formed the leanest and most effective government in the history of our country. So, Speaker, I want to submit that you can have 10 ministers, another government can have 20 ministers, and the government that has 20 ministers may have a smaller government machinery, a smaller government size than you who have 10 ministers. Mr. Speaker, so if you want to see the size of government and its bearing on the national exchequer, Mr. Speaker, don't just look at ministers and deputy ministers. Look at the government holistically. And Mr. Speaker, I want to submit that if you look at this government holistically, there are ministers, deputy ministers, senior presidential advisors, presidential staffers, presidential aides. President Mahama has formed arguably one of the biggest or largest government in the history of our country as it relates to the cost on the national exchequer. Mr. Speaker, he says he will not appoint deputy regional ministers, and he appoints 16 presidential staffers in charge of the 16 regions of our country. Mr. Speaker, I want to submit that these presidential staffers in charge of the 16 regions of our country, in essence, as it relates to the cost on the national exchequer, are in fact, indeed, and in substance, deputy ministers of states. Mr. Speaker, I've done the mathematics, and I want to submit. Mr. Speaker, I've done the mathematics that I want to submit, and I do this not from a partisan lens, but I do this as somebody who had the privilege and honor to serve as Deputy Chief of Staff. I know how it works. In terms of the cost on the national exchequer, the President has appointed 100 ministers and deputy ministers.
So that's the Member of Parliament for Damango, Samuel Abdullahi Jinapor, on the floor of Parliament. But today, the President has responded. Speaking at the swearing-in of 13 deputy ministers and 1 minister of state this afternoon, President Mahama dismissed the claims. He stated that his appointment reflects a deliberate effort to minimize government size.
From the outset of this administration, I gave a solemn assurance to the people of Ghana that I will fulfill my promise to create a lean, efficient, cost-effective, and performance-driven government. I committed to reducing the size of government from the largest ever in the history of our country to the smallest ever, while guaranteeing that every ministry or agency critical to national progress receives the necessary support to be able to fulfill its objectives. With this goal in mind, I have carefully exercised discretion in appointing deputy ministers only for ministries with comparatively heavier workloads. These include finance, agriculture, energy, roads, works and housing, tourism, interior, trade and agribusiness, education, justice, lands and natural resources, and local government, chieftaincy and religious affairs, and defense, all of which play critical roles in the growth, infrastructure development, and job creation in this country. The highly demanding responsibilities in these ministries require additional support to ensure swift and effective implementation of the programs and policies that we have set ourselves. Ministries that can function effectively without deputy ministers have not been assigned any deputy minister, reaffirming our commitment to a lean and efficient government. The swearing-in of this batch of 13 deputy ministers and 1 minister of state brings us closer to achieving the full complement of ministers. This week I'll submit a final list of 4 deputy ministers to achieve the full complement of 60 ministers that we promised. We've also achieved the earliest approval of ministers by Parliament under the Fourth Republic, enabling them to get to work to roll out our commitment to the people of Ghana. And for this, I wish to thank Mr. Speaker and the honorable members of Parliament. The same commitment to composing a lean government has found expression in the appointments made at the presidency so far. So far, I've appointed 27 presidential staffers to various roles and 3 persons as directors of important governmental initiatives, bringing the total number of political appointees so far to 30. This list of 30 is pending approval from the Council of State. At the last count, there were 336 political appointees at the presidency under the previous government. While we're in the process of recruiting supporting staff to enable the full functioning of our presidency, the numbers will come nowhere near the army of people that were hired under the previous government. Our commitment to a lean government is not merely about reducing the number of ministerial appointees or reducing the numbers at the presidency. It is grounded in our firm belief that government must exercise fiscal discipline by ensuring that public resources are used efficiently and responsibly. This commitment stems from a deep recognition that there must be a fair balance between government expenditure and the responsibility of citizens to fund national development and state administration through payment of their taxes. Public funds must go primarily into investments that benefit the Ghanaian people directly, and those who administer those funds and use it in pursuit of that objective must not be the largest beneficiary of same. The full extent of our commitment to fulfilling our promises to the people have not only manifested in the way that we have curated the leanest government under the Fourth Republic, but we've also demonstrated same in the policies that we are pursuing. Only yesterday, the first budget statement and economic policy of this government was presented on my behalf by the Minister of Finance to Parliament. The budget has outlined specific interventions across all sectors.
That's President John Dramani Mahama. While long at the presidency today, he received letters of credence from 5 ambassadors to Ghana. That's from ambassadors to Italy, Cuba, Liberia, Iran, and UAE towards strengthening Ghana's diplomatic ties with its global partners.
We're all quite familiar with Italian engineering and technology, and we think that it's an area where we can continue to exchange knowledge and technical know-how. I'm particularly happy about the initiative in agriculture because that is one of the main focuses of this administration. We think that one of the first things any responsible government must do must be able to provide food security for its people. We've had inflation go up to 54%. It is now dropping gradually at 22%, and we're hoping that it will come down further. But one of the main drivers of our inflation has been supply of food inflation. And so if we're able to expand on production, not only producing the food, but also processing and marketing, we need to look at the whole value chain. And that's why this initiative you're talking about is very important, because if we can get the technology and partner Italy and Ghana to produce food from the farm right to processing to the market, I think that is the focus our government is aiming at. And so any such collaboration will be in the right direction. And I'll be very happy to meet the chief executive when he visits Ghana.
Thank you, sir.
In addition, we have launched yesterday in the budget, the minister mentioned the Ghana Labor Export Program, and that is going to set up centers of excellence in raising the skill of Ghanaian youth to international standards so that they can work anywhere in the world. And based on agreements we'll sign with different governments, we can send electricians, welders, engineers, civil engineers, masons, carpenters, people with a very high skill. We can send them out to go and work on fixed contracts and come back. We discussed it with IMO, when I was in Munich at the Munich Security Conference, we met the international IOM, International Sahara, the Mediterranean, to try and reach Europe. If they know there's a legal way in which they can go, have skills, go and work and be able to earn some money, come and invest back at home, I think that there will be a better means of doing that than what is happening currently.
President Mahama also confirmed DNI's continued commitment to investing in Ghana's energy sector.
I met the chairman of ENI, Eni. He was here. We had very good discussions. There were some issues that they had during the previous administration. Happily, we've been able to resolve them. And so he indicated that they were willing to go ahead with their investment in Ghana. We have had a good partnership with them, and currently almost 60% of our total gas supply for power generation is coming from Eni, and they have the possibility of ramping that up with the other compartments that we gave them. So we're in a good place, and we appreciate the cooperation that we're having with them in that regard. There are more prospects for partnership between our GMPC and any other organizations that are interested in the upstream oil and gas industry. And so we'll work together on that. We're happy to note the call for a ceasefire by President Zelensky, 30-day ceasefire.
President John Dramani Mahama.